Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. Governor Kenneth Mapp's second State of the Territory address, which happened earlier tonight, called attention back to his first one. For many, it's a means of evaluating whether the new administration indeed delivered on its promises. News 2's April Knight got insights from a politician and a resident on the territory's ills and what the year 2015 looked like.
As Governor Kenneth Mapp delivered his second State of the Territory address, government leaders and residents alike look back to last year's bleak report to assess if the governor made significant progress. In 2015, the governor, barely a month in office, reported that the territory was on the verge of a fiscal meltdown.
Our government is teetering on the brink of financial collapse.
A condition, he said, that he inherited from administrations past. This statement would later haunt the new governor throughout 2015 as he himself got embroiled in accusations of a lavish lifestyle. To justify the controversial pay raises to his cabinet members, the governor said the economy has since started turning around. Senate President Neville James, who presided over tonight's State of the Territory, said that he does not see 2015 as a year marked by significant progress, but as a year marked by efforts to stabilize the territory.
2015 was about stabilizing our situation here locally. Our responsibility calls for making sure that the government meets its mandates with respect to providing the services that we need to provide. That's our statutory obligation. We're in a financial quandary.
But apart from pumping life back into the economy, this resident urges the governor not to forget critical, chronic issues that continue to plague the territory.
It would be nice to hear anything definitely concerning the economy with a focus on youth. Of course, we're going to hear about the reduction in crime and the rest of that, but the templated stuff, but we want to hear something that's going to truly get to the root of the problem.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
The 7 p.m. airing of News 2 was preempted for that live broadcast of the governor's State of the Territory address. And members of the 31st Legislature of the Virgin Islands, led by Senate President Neville James, invited the community to tune in for that presentation. Now, be sure to tune in on News 2 on Tuesday for team coverage at 7 p.m. and 12 midnight. Senate Vice President Jeanette Millen-Young, who chairs the Committee on Economic Development, Agriculture and Planning, said she obtained a clarification and confirmation letter of the operating agreement between the government and Lime Tree Bay terminals. This action is timely, she says, in view of growing concern that the Virgin Islands gasoline prices remain unchanged despite dropping oil rates. Following Senate approval of the operating agreement, Millen-Young commented, "In the end, the process worked. The yes votes prevailed, and it is for all of us to remain vigilant to ensure the promises by ArcLight and the Mapp administration are fulfilled." The senator wrote Attorney Joel Holt, who represented the government in negotiations with Lime Tree on January 7, 2016. Senator Terrence Positive Nelson introduced Bill 31-0176, which is an act amending Title III to allow for a Virgin Islands Public Officials Compensation Commission in Committee on Government Services, Veterans, and Consumer Affairs. The intent of the legislation, he says, is to remove politics from the salary structure the government currently has in place. Having a separate entity, such as a compensation commission, to deliberate and make those determinations would achieve this goal, the senator said. However, although the intent of the bill was supported by a majority of the senators and testifiers, it was held in set committee until the next meeting date. There were some concerns raised by the judges and the Bar Association as having them under a separate criteria. Call on 2 to keep you updated. 24 guardsmen from the Virgin Islands National Guard have left the territory. The HHC 786 Support Battalion will spend 12 months abroad on their military mission. Here's more.
Yes, the 786 HHC forward team, which is also known as the Band of Brothers, basically, when they get the orders, they have to go through some physical training. The basic physical training they have to do is, number one, they have to pass the APFT test, which is the Army Physical Fitness Test. and then also that get to do the medical screening to make sure that they are fit. Each one of the band of brothers are seen with a counselor and have a one-to-one session with a counselor just to make sure that they are in the right frame of mind and that the mindset is ready for the upcoming deployment. We are sending them off a farewell as they get on a plane to go down range.
We wish all of our soldiers the best. Turn our attention to crime reports on Saturday, January 23rd at approximately 8:08 a.m. The second victim involved in the shooting incident in the vicinity of Agnes Fancy sadly succumbed to her injuries and was later identified as 35-year-old Heidi Mills. Wednesday, January 20th, you may remember, we reported at 1:29 a.m. officers responded to the call of gunfire discharged in Agnes Fancy. Officers discovered victim number 1, an unresponsive Caucasian male, lying prone in the roadway, and victim number 2, a Caucasian female, also lying on the ground, heard moaning. Victim number 1 has sustained a gunshot wound to the head along with several shots to his upper torso and was pronounced dead on the scene. Victim number 2 also sustained a gunshot wound to the head and one to her lower left leg. Still clinging to life, she was transported to the Roy Leshner Schneider Hospital for treatment and was listed in serious condition. Police say anyone with information concerning this incident may phone the Major Crimes Unit at 340-642-8449, 911, or Crime Stoppers, as well as any of the numbers there on the screen. Turn our attention overseas and here in the territory, the biggest winter storm of the season. Winter Storm Jonas dropped more than 2 feet of snow on a large portion of the East Coast and has caused massive flight delays and cancellations throughout the region. While the cleanup and snow removal continues, all travelers coming to or departing the U.S. Virgin Islands to and from the impacted areas are urged to contact their air carriers for travel updates and information, and the Virgin Islands Port Authority did report some delays on Friday. Meanwhile, millions of people along the East Coast have been scrambling to dig themselves out of the snow and ice after this weekend's crippling winter storm. The blizzard killed at least 14 people, grounded thousands of flights, and essentially shut down several of the nation's largest cities. Chris Welch reports.
All along the East Coast, the diligent hum of digging.
There you go.
And scraping, and of course plowing can be heard. Crews are trying to clear the roads as best they can.
While we have made some progress, there is still a lot more to do.
Washington, D.C. schools and the city government are closed Monday, as is the federal government. But some of the city's transit will be back up and running. The D.C. mayor cautioned residents about one of the big concerns in the coming days, black ice.
We expect that with the temperature dropping tonight and for every night this week, that we will see continued slick and dangerous roadways.
In New York, even though the travel ban has been lifted and buses and most trains are operational, officials are still urging residents to stay off the roads.
Leave your car where it is. Don't try and shovel it out today unless you have an emergency or something truly urgent.
The coastal flood warning has been lifted in New Jersey, where several cities were inundated with high water that caused widespread power outages. Officials say the worst appears to be over.
We've really done very, very well in this storm, and we have no concerns about flooding or damage from flooding anytime soon.
Drivers in at least 3 states were stranded for hours during the peak of the blizzard. One of the worst backups was on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, prompting an apology from the Turnpike chairman and the promise of a thorough review. Airports in Philadelphia and the New York area resumed very limited service Sunday afternoon. But here in D.C., Reagan National and Dulles International both remained closed. They will open at least one runway tomorrow morning at each airport, so limited service will resume. But again, it's going to take some time before this city and before many cities on the East Coast can get back to something they call normal. Reporting in Washington, I'm Chris Welch.
And keeping our eye on the economy, that winter storm has affected many events. Let's take a look at the New York Stock Exchange with our stock market watch. Taking a look at the numbers there, we can see everything down. The Dow down 208, NASDAQ 72, S&P 500 also down at 29. Coming up on News 2, as we reported on Friday, the Virgin Islands Department of Health confirmed a case positive for Zika virus in a 42-year-old woman with no history of previous travel during the incubation period of the virus. We'll have some more details from that conference. Welcome back. The Virgin Islands Department of Health confirmed on Friday, as we reported, a case positive for the Zika virus in a 42-year-old woman with no history of previous travel during the incubation period of the virus. Here's more from that press conference.
Earlier this month, the Virgin Islands Department of Health held a conference to inform residents in the territory about the Zika virus. The Virgin Islands Department of Health confirmed on Friday, January 22nd, that a positive case of the Zika virus was detected in a 42-year-old woman living in the territory.
We have had our first locally acquired Zika virus case in the territory.